Well, hello again from here inside St James's Park, where the ground staff just down below me there are already preparing for Saturday's visit of Bournemouth. Yes, can you believe we'll be back here in 3 days' time when Newcastle are going for a club record 10 out of 10. They made it 9 out of 9 straight victories in all competitions here tonight against Wolves, and they've got the roller out there down below us. And I think right now Newcastle are just steamrolling past teams. You might not agree with that. You might think tonight was a little bit bumpy in parts, given they did cough up some chances. And Eddie Howe has just said to us downstairs he didn't necessarily think the scoreline was a fair reflection. Now, I don't disagree with much of what Eddie Howe is saying right now, but I do disagree with that just on account of, I'll take it to the comments of Vito Pereira as well. He said the only difference between the teams was Newcastle took their chances. Well, isn't that called better players? Isn't that a 3-goal difference when his side has got Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon go further back, Sandro, Tonali, Bruno, Guimaraes? Better players win games, and that's the position Newcastle are in right now. At no point tonight, and you know I always say this, you're working on a live game, you've got to write your match report to order, file some of it on 45, 75, then again on 90, you've got to gamble on the tone. At no point did I feel in any jeopardy as to Newcastle not winning that game. Yes, they weren't at the fluent best, but isn't that what a good team does? You just big players step up and you play sometimes in little passages. I thought there was actually spells there in the second half when Newcastle were exceptional. The way they were cutting through Wolves, the way they were creating chances, and then on the end of those chances, when they did come, they scored goals. Alexander Isak got a little bit lucky with his goal in the first half, but don't good players, better players make their own look, and that is what Newcastle are doing right now. To a man, those top stars, they're fit, they're in form, and they're playing with confidence. And every time they go out, they look as if they're going to win. Another thing Eddie has just said to us downstairs, then it was in response to my question when I said, only a month ago, December the 15th, Newcastle were 12th in the table. It's now January the 15th, the 4th. A month ago, we were questioning whether Bruno and Tonali could even play together. Look at them now. That's the best midfield pair, and I know there's Joe Linton in there as well, but certainly those two dovetailing in the 6 and the 8, the aggressor, the artist, the engine, and the pair of them are all three, by the way. I'm not pigeonholing either of them in any of those roles. I think the two of them can do a little bit of everything. To journey so far in a month, and what Eddie Howe said in response to that was, there's still another level to go. Well, I'm not sure there is another level in terms of performance, because I think right now they're showing they can win any which way, and I think a lot of players are operating at the very best. That's not to do them down and say they can't be any better. I just think the performance so well, the click and the cohesion, and the point I would make in response to that is that I think the next level is just more consistency. What they've done in the last 9 games and what should probably by extension be a 10th against Bournemouth on Saturday, can they then go and do that for 20 games, for 30 games? That's what the very top teams do. Now, tonight, I noticed one of my colleagues posed the question, can Newcastle win the league even within the confines of my own match report? I said, why can't that silverware be a push for the Premier League? I don't think we're quite ready for talk of title challenges just yet, but they've won 9 on the spin in all competitions, 6 in the Premier League. Add another 2 or 3 onto that, and given it's a season when there aren't any runaway leaders, really, the current leaders, Liverpool, are beginning to slow, and doesn't it just show what supporters, and even us guys as journalists, we were debating this in the press room yesterday morning, and I noticed on social media, the fans last night, what's the best result for Newcastle between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest, first versus third? Well, a month ago, December the 15th, Newcastle were worrying about what was the best result, 11th versus 13th, in terms of their prospects of climbing out of the bottom half. So to get in this position where they are now and to concern themselves with talk of top 2s, top 3s, top 1 even, that just shows what a good place they're in. And I don't think that conversation is misplaced, even though that big question, are they title contenders? That's got to be reserved for 2-3 weeks down the line when they answer the question I've just posed there. Can they turn 9 into 10, into double digits, and then can they push that towards 20? They don't have to win all of those games. They've just got to maintain that level, that performance, that looking like a top team. Best players fit, in form, playing with confidence. The confidence that's running and coursing through them so ferociously at the moment, it's as quick as they're going through opposition defences, it really is. And ironically, the only defence who can keep Gordon, Bruno, Tonali, Isak, Murphy out at the moment is probably their own. I know they gave up a few chances here tonight, and Wolves probably should have scored, but that is 6 clean sheets and 9 now, I think it is. Please correct me, you're losing count of the clean sheets. That's how many there are right now. And Botman and Byrne are just sensational. They really are disproving this theory that two lefties can't play together at centre-back, two left footers, well, everything with them right now is right, absolutely right, in the protection of Tonali in front. And I'm going through mentioning all the names here, and tonight, guys, the podium isn't big enough. It really isn't. I'm going to squeeze 3 onto there. I'm going to stick to my rules, but there was 5 who I really wrestled with. I think there's one who we probably all agree on deserves to be right at the very top. Do I put him there? Because I honestly had a debate with myself as to there's 2 players who I'm still undecided now. During the course of this video, I might persuade myself one way or the other. But let's just reflect on how Newcastle recorded that 9th straight win. Now, when we spoke to Eddie on the eve of the game, he warned against complacency, this feeling, this expectation that Newcastle would turn up and just never mind win this one, but win the next 2 games. We were already speaking with him about club records and everything else. Well, I don't think Newcastle were complacent inside the first 5 to 10 minutes. It was just a slow start, and Wolves had a couple of really promising attacks. They had the best chance of the opening 15-20 minutes when the ball comes across. They get in behind Tino Livramento, comes across Lewis Hall. Is he sleeping, just perhaps caught unaware? Gomez gets in on his shoulder. It's actually a poor finish. This goes back to what Vito Pereira said. You know, Newcastle took their chances. Wolves didn't. Well, yes, because they've got better players. And if that's Alexander Isak, rather than Guimaraes, he doesn't drag it across the face of goal. He puts it in the bottom corner. So that was a big chance missed. But something else I noticed during the first 5-10 minutes, and I made a deliberate note of it on my pad, was Sandro Tonali. After about 30 seconds, he put out a little fire there in the strawberry corner. We're using that phrase about him all the time. Arrives on the scene, just mops up. That told me 2 things. One, that Tonali is excellent at what he does in that 6, and that defensive awareness is a different level to what we thought. And I actually think what the coach and staff believed they were getting as well. They knew he was a good ball player, but this defensive, tactical awareness to come back to that word, to be in the right place at the right time, it really is quite exceptional, and that is benefiting the team as much as what he's doing going forward. Back over as well. It's no coincidence those clean sheets have coincided with him going to that position. But what it told us is, yes, 1, Tonali is good, but 2, there were fires there to be put out, and there were a couple of little occasions where Tonali just arrives and snuffs out that danger. But then from the 15-20 minute mark onwards, I thought Newcastle actually did start to play well. Yes, there was some loose balls. Anthony Gordon once or twice, Joe Linton twice or thrice even, just not keeping the ball in the manner in which they have done recently. But even still, I thought Gordon was really at the thick of it in terms of taking Newcastle upfield. He is so direct, he is so quick, in the position where you've got in the press box when he's on that left in front of you. You really do appreciate just how electric he is and what a difference he does make. And yes, everything didn't come off, but I really thought it was he more than anyone really who put Wolves on the back foot. And then you had Jacob Murphy on the opposite flank. He's almost like a little bit of a sleeper at times, because everything does go down Newcastle's left. Murphy can go 5 or 10 minutes without being involved, and then the ball is quickly played out wide and he's there. And you've got to say that final ball, cross shot, whatever it is, it's good at the moment. Yes, it can be inconsistent, but he drew the first save of the game from Jose Sa. He then pinged one across the box, and at the moment when the opening goal arrives, I think Newcastle are just starting to click. Bruno had served notice of his ability to pick those passes. He threaded one through to Isak. Isak didn't quite take it in his stride. Bruno actually said, come on, you know, you're good enough, take it with you. You threw on goal, and then the opening goal does come. And back to Jacob Murphy. He comes in field, and I hadn't appreciated this until I watched the replay. It's brilliant. He drops a shoulder, goes by your man. It's then to Joe Linton. Joe Linton plays it out wide. I actually think the ball is intended for Anthony Gordon. Gordon runs over it. It comes to Isak. Now, it ends up in the back of the net, and you might think Isak's beaten 3 men and found the bottom corner. Well, actually, and this isn't a criticism, it's just a reflection of actually how it played out, and it speaks to what a good place he is in. He bundled through 3 men, minus his customary composure, and he ends up needing that massive slice of fortune when it goes in off Ait-Nouri into the bottom corner. Now, I felt for the goalkeeper Jose Sa. He was actually well positioned. He had it covered, but come the end, he looked like a man who had made provisions for rain and found a great big hole in his umbrella, and there was nothing he could do about it. That was 1-0 Newcastle, but even then, as the first half closed out, Wolves had that big chance right on the stroke of half time where Strand Larsen hits the post again. It was Lewis Hall, and in fairness, Lewis Hall, I think he'd slipped, but they got in behind him. Lewis Hall was tremendous going forward during that first half. There was one little occasion right on the Milburn stand touchline there in front of the dugout where he's done a little jink and he's danced by a couple of men, you know, good form continues, but that was just a little reminder with him and Tino at times that perhaps there still is that work to be done defensively. They're young defenders, they're working with the best coach in the country, Europe, the world even, in terms of drilling that improvement and that understanding into them, as we've seen by Hall's progression from this time a year ago. So they go in half-time, 1-0, and they haven't necessarily played particularly well, but again, they're 1-0 up because they've got good players, because they've got Alexander Isak, because they've got Anthony Gordon, because they've got Guimaraes, and because they've got Tonali. That's why they put themselves in that position, and they come out in the second half and they make it 2-0. And it's just that pass, that incredible ball from Bruno Guimaraes. He can't play that pass if he's in the number 6. It's why when Newcastle were bouncing around for those solutions 4 or 5 weeks ago, I did that entire video on saying swap them, put Tonali at 6 and Bruno at 8, because we saw during that first season the ability he's got to impact in the final third. And it's just, I want to go home and I want to watch it again to get the ball in the position he did, and to see that angle and to thread that pass through to Alexander Isak, who, yes, he's in space. Now, Isak accepts the ball, but it's still a difficult finish. How many times do you see strikers in those situations snatch at such chances? Well, we saw Wolves strikers do the same here tonight. Isak doesn't. It's cool, it's composed, whips it across his body into the bottom corner, and that's 2-0. And from that point, it's game over. I'm putting my match report to bed now. Well, it's 3-0 not long after. And actually, if there is going to be criticism of Alexander Isak, he goes through on goal and he probably should score his hat-trick. It looked like it might be offside. Joe Linton just delayed that pass a little bit too long. Isak goes through, and for once there isn't really the conviction there. The shot is blocked, it comes back, you know, nonetheless he puts it on a plate for his mate, and Gordon whips that into the bottom corner for 4-4. Now on Isak, we spoke to Eddie Howe about him afterwards, and this was an observation I've made in previous videos. He scored spectacular goals during that Champions League season, goal of the month contenders. He could score every type of wonderful goal. Well, now he's missed a right place, right time. How many has he put in inside the 6-yard box there at the Leazes end? That there again, just being on the right spot, on the penalty spot, in fact, to accept that pass from Bruno in finishing. Those are the goals that take tallies of 14, 15 to 20, 25, 30, when you can score all type of goal. Eddie Howe called it an art afterwards, and right now he is the ultimate artist. He really is at the very top of his game, and no one in the Premier League, no one in Europe, no one in the world to revisit that gradual escalation. No one has got a player like Alexander Isak right now, and Newcastle have. And that is why they're up into the top 4, and that is why they shouldn't stop there. That is why they should be looking beyond that. And on Isak, I think we've missed out the moment in the first half stoppage time, when he recovers in the goal mouth to actually knock. Was it Strand Larsen who was going through on goal and he outmuscles him, knocks him off the ball? Quite incredible, really. I mean, is there anything this guy can't do? Should he swap his cape and put the gloves on the next time Newcastle concede a penalty and try and save one of those? He really is in such a good place. I use that phrase all the time, don't I? But this is the best he's played in terms of all-round performance, and it's the best he's been in terms of output. It's incredible. Now, they did get a little bit sloppy during the closing stages. I don't think Eddie Howe particularly liked what he saw. Martin Dubravka's had to make a brilliant close-range save where he tips it up onto the bar. There's been the goal disallowed, and maybe that was just Sven Botman tiring a little. I think, you know, these 3 games back now, that's understandable, but certainly they did get a little bit ragged, and on another occasion against teams who've got better players, like we saw here against Liverpool, the 3-3. Don't forget, you know, they had players who punished Newcastle that night. That is an area for them perhaps to tighten up in, but nonetheless, you play the situation, you play the game, and for me, I know there's that narrative that Newcastle necessarily didn't deserve that 3-0 win. Well, for me, they did, and I go back to what I said at the very start, because they just had the best players on the pitch, and best players, better players, well, they win football matches. I wanted the merit stars, and I said I'd wrestled with this, and I'm going to be disciplined. The one, well, that goes to Anthony Gordon. It's almost gone undetected amid Isak's club record scoring run of 8 straight games in the Premier League. The Gordon now has scored 4-4. Now, Eddie Howe threw down the gauntlet to Anthony Gordon earlier in the season. Gauntlet said that he wanted to play on the left. There was that competition there with Harvey Barnes, and I think Eddie had said to him, well, if you want to be the left winger, you go out and play well enough to keep Harvey out of the team, and hasn't he responded to that? It was a slow start of the season. He was on the left, he was on the right, he was playing through the middle. The body language at times wasn't necessarily great. There was little bits written about him, including from the likes of myself, but that was a That was a compliment. We weren't writing about poor players who weren't performing. We were writing about the very best players, and Gordon is one of the very best players, and you cannot deny that performances pre all of that narrative and that coverage to what they are post, it's night and day. Anthony Gordon now is back at that level. Now, there was one or two things didn't quite come off from him in the first half, but he was trying, he was putting himself in those positions, and the fact he's got 4 goals in 4 and he's got the assists as well to go with it. Again, I'm going to throw him in that he's in just such a good place right now and well worth, I think, the 1 star. And the 2 stars, well, I was only going to pick one of them here. It was between Bruno and Tonali, and it means that one of them actually misses out. And I'm going to put Sandro Tonali in there as the recipient of the 2. I just can't not have him in there. There's just a strut and a majesty about him. Again, we're so privileged. I sit just there 1 row behind the dugout, and you can see the way he is just orchestrating, conducting that game from the number 6 position. It really is mad to think that 6-7 weeks ago we were watching him charge up and down those blind alleys in that number 8 position. A player like Sandro Tonali should never be partially sighted. You should always have the full picture in front of him. And right now he is making strokes and passes that others just cannot live with. Now, it does help, of course, when you've got the likes of Isak and Gordon in front of you, but he has changed the way the team are playing, getting the ball forward quickly, 1 touch to those star attackers in space, and it is making all the difference. And I thought there again tonight, if it wasn't for the guy who's got 3 stars, Sandro Tonali would have taken them for me. Just fantastic. Now 3, yes, no prizes for guessing Alexander Isak. How can it not be when he scored 2 goals and laid on the other? And again, you know, it comes back to Newcastle weren't at the very best, but it's the difference maker when you've got Alexander Isak through the middle. How would Arsenal love him right now? How would Spurs even? How would Manchester City? How would any team anywhere in the land not love an Alexander Isak? Newcastle have got him. I've already covered enough in this video of the mechanics of his performance and just how great he is right now. The only thing left to say is Alexander Isak, 3 stars for a 5-star performance, in fact. Now, there are some newsy items to wrap up from tonight. Eddie Howe's just said downstairs he wasn't really aware of anything coming into the game with regards to Lloyd Kelly and Miguel Almiron. I do have some information on this now. Atlanta United, Almiron's former club in the MLS, they are absolutely, definitely 100% in for Almiron. I get the impression, I'm going to write an update in the morning, but it looks as if that one is going to happen for around the £10 million mark. Now, Lloyd Kelly, there was perhaps less chance of that. The offer which came in was relatively low, below Newcastle's valuation. So to that end, I'm not necessarily expecting movement on Kelly, but to lose Almiron in the week when Harvey Barnes is out for 4 weeks and to probably have no one else coming on the back of it, that is a little bit of a gamble. We saw there tonight, Almiron came on, so he still does have a place, have a worth in the squad. So I would say there's an element of risk attached to that, but there does come a point where Newcastle have got to sell players. And Miguel Almiron, they've been trying to sell him for 2 or 3 windows now, so you cannot argue against the sale. It's just the timing of it with the injury, and given Newcastle are in such a good place, if they were to lose one of Murphy or Gordon and neither an Almiron to come into the team, there is a little bit of danger there. So I'd be interested to get the thoughts of Eddie Howe when we see him again on Friday, if by then, as I now expect, that perhaps there's some more significant movement on Miguel Almiron. Now, Fabian Schär was missing tonight. Nothing particularly to worry about. It was the one big selection call Eddie Howe had. Who did he play at the back? Well, it was made for him. Fabian Schär was missing because of illness, but no longer-term effects there. He is expected to be back in the reckoning for Bournemouth here on Saturday, and that is where we roll on to. I'll be speaking to you again from up at the training ground on Friday. It doesn't stop at the moment, does it? And given where they are in the table, form, fitness, confidence, all those keywords I talk about, how can you see anything other than a 10th straight victory in all competitions here on Saturday? That would put Eddie Howe ahead of Rafa Benitez and Kevin Keegan, who he's moved alongside tonight in terms of orchestrating those 9 victories. And yes, while King Kev is still adored in these parts, well, the succession plan is in place. And if Eddie Howe were to bring back a trophy this season, then, well, we would witness the coronation finally, wouldn't we? And why can't they? Why can't they aim for the top of the Premier League, the final of the Carabao Cup, progression in the FA Cup? Just to be in this place now, it's awfully quiet, but there's an energy, there's an electricity, there's something special happening here this season. They've got special players, they've got a special manager, so let's just do a little 180 around the place. And yeah, it's quite something at the moment. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos and more so enjoying what's happening on the pitch right now. I'll see you again like I say, in a couple of days' time. For now, thank you so much for watching. Tell me below the line, did I get those merit stars wrong? Loads of debate there tonight. What do you think about the performance in general? Was there anything that worried you, and just how lucky are Newcastle United to have Alexander Isak? Okay, guys, I'll see you in a couple of days' time. Take care. Bye-bye.